Tonight on West Dakota Fox News at 9, 14 murders in 36 hours. A recent wave of violence casts a dark shadow over a popular tourist destination. Plus, the governor goes to Washington. We'll show you the White House meeting. But first, a law enforcement officer is behind bars, accused of a crime he was hired to prevent.
This is West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Molly Martinez. A Burleigh County deputy is behind bars tonight, arrested on suspicion of stealing a pound of meth. Authorities say 31-year-old Carrie Komrosky is also accused of stealing 13 cell phones from the Metro Task Force. Sheriff Pat Heinert says Komrosky was on patrol Saturday when he lost his sergeant's contact. That's when they went to go check on his home and they found the evidence. He was put in immediate administrative leave. Heinert said he resigned when asked to take a drug test.
I'm not a drug user, so I guess obviously naturally maybe a lower bond. Like I was thinking maybe 1,000. I don't exactly have a whole lot of money to my name right now, and obviously employment is not going good for me.
The judge ordered Komrosky to do drug patch testing and to not have contact with anyone involved in task force operations. Our other top story tonight, Governor Doug Burgum was in Washington today to meet with President Trump and Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue at the White House. They touched on trade and agricultural issues. There's been concern of a possible trade war looming and how it will affect our agricultural exports. Burgum didn't seem worried.
You know, all the moves that are being made by ourselves and other countries are all negotiating tactics to try to reach an endpoint. And I think the thing that, you know, we can be assured of is that this administration is fighting for American farmers and American producers and American ranchers.
Others still aren't sold, wondering how these new tariffs will play out. Well, it doesn't look like much growing will be happening this week anyway, with another round of snow heading our way. Take it away, Henry.
It's looking like that's mostly going to be across the southwestern region, especially in South Dakota.
Police in Minot arrest a 33-year-old Marcus Hill for firing a gun northwest of town and later learned that gun was stolen. Police responded to the gunshots just before 10 last night in the 300 block of 27th Avenue Northwest. The gun was found during a search of Hill's apartment. The gun had previously been reported as stolen. No one was hurt. Newly revealed court documents show the man sentenced to death for killing a UND student in 2003 offered to plead guilty in order to avoid the death penalty. Prosecutors rejected that offer. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. was found guilty of the kidnap and murder of Drew Stojan. Attorneys for Rodriguez are appealing that death sentence. Well, Fargo police are looking for a gun used in a strip club shooting last night. They say 32-year-old Pedro Dagdag opened fire at the Northern around 11:30 last night after the bouncer refused him entry. Police say Dagdag took off towards West Fargo. Eventually, officers were able to stop him using spike strips. When he got out of his vehicle, they say he asked police to shoot him. Police are now trying to figure out where he dumped the gun. He faces numerous charges. We're learning one of the victims of Tuesday's deadly plane crash in Arizona had ties to North Dakota. 26-year-old Eric Valenti was an aviation graduate from UND. He was one of 6 people killed when the small plane crashed onto a golf course. It's unclear if he was piloting that plane. Tonight, police in Minot are warning the public of a fundraising scam going around. Police say callers say they are from something called the, quote, Police Action Fund. They're asking for money on behalf of the Minot Police Department. Only police say that organization doesn't exist and that the department would never ask for money over the phone. Anyone who has lost money as a result of the calls can contact the Attorney General's office. Well, whether it's for entertainment or serious business, drones offer a different view of the world. 2 Morton County Sheriff's deputies are now licensed to fly a department drone purchased last fall. Daniela Hurtado went to find out what the new Vantage Point means for police.
Drones give law enforcement agencies like Morton County Sheriff's Department eagle-eyed vision.
It's a lot easier to see things from the sky. You know, if somebody's out in these woods here, seeing them from here would be really difficult.
2 deputies licensed and a drone are extra tools the department now has to help them in situations just like the one this week in the Heart River.
Even walking the shoreline sometimes becomes dangerous, and in a situation like this, as we can check a lot bigger area a lot quicker.
Big chunks of ice in the river haven't helped in the search for Lynn Fairfield, but having eyes in the sky has been an important help for deputies.
It'll be used a lot more in the coming days and weeks, depending on how the weather and the ice cooperates here.
Kirkmeyer says they purchased a drone for situations like this.
Well, once the camps were forcibly cleared out during the Dakota Access Pipeline protests, a lot of trash was left behind, and it ended up in the Bismarck landfill. Today, Maddie Jelseth went to find out what happened next.
This area behind me is where garbage was dumped from the camps. The Public Works Department says they have to move from this dumping site sooner than expected. This site is almost full of municipal solid waste, causing the Public Works Department to move to a bigger location across the street.
We're presently permitting for the next cell on our property, on landfill property, that will take us probably for another 50 to 60 years of garbage disposal.
The municipal solid waste area cost $2.5 million to construct.
Because we always put a liner down, you know, and then this all drains into the leachate, and then it goes down to city water, wastewater, and they treat it.
Sheldon says although it's expensive, the use of the liner makes the landfill more environmental friendly.
This land, Harold, everything that's in it stays in it, and the liquid goes down there. It doesn't drain out in other parts.
Hines says the landfill separates garbage because it helps keep unwanted materials like metal from getting into the municipal solid waste area.
We separate as much of that garbage as we possibly can because we don't want to put things into that municipal solid waste cell and fill it up too quick, because that's a very expensive cell to create.
The landfill makes its own revenue from companies and residents who use the dump ground. The city of Bismarck says they don't expect to raise landfill fees. For specific landfill fees numbers, you can go to their website. Reporting for West Dakota Fox is at 9. I'm Maddie Jelseth.
The Public Service Commission just approved a permit to expand the Bear Creek gas plant in Dunn County. They hope to increase production from 80 million standard cubic feet per day to 175 million. Commissioner Randy Krishman says the project will reduce flaring, take trucks off the roads, and create a lot of jobs. In education news, a couple months ago, Bismarck Mayor Mike Seminary challenged 6th graders at Horizon Middle School to come up with a vision for Bismarck in 2030. Some of their ideas included autonomous cars, remodeling and updating architecture, and tiny homes.
We kind of learned that even though we're 6th graders, we can have an impact on our future city and what we want it to look like in the next 12 years.
The 6 top groups will meet with the mayor on Tuesday to share their ideas. An organization called RSVP shut down operations more than a year ago because it lost financial sponsors. But now it's back and ready to meet community needs once again. It's one of 11 test projects aimed at helping people over 55 get involved in the community. And it now has a new sponsor. RSVP helps match up volunteers with nonprofits that need help. While it previously provided the service for anyone and hope to do so again in the future, it can only serve people age 55 and up.
So, you know, depression can really sit in if you're sitting in your house day after day after day. So when we give them a volunteer assignment, that gets them out of the house and that keeps them healthier longer.
RSVP doesn't have a website yet, but you can contact the organization to volunteer at the number below. Following deadly attacks in Syria, President Trump took to Twitter this morning, but now he's toning down his rhetoric. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
We're looking very, very seriously, very closely at that whole situation, and we'll see what happens.
President Trump seeming to back off his threat of an imminent strike on Syria, tweeting this morning, quote, "Never said when an attack on Syria would take place, could be very soon or not so soon at all." A day earlier, the president said, "Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming." The USS Harry Truman strike group deploying to the region, adding more firepower to a potential fight in Syria. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis answering questions from lawmakers today.
And some things are simply inexcusable, beyond the pale, and in the worst interest of not just the Chemical Weapons Convention, but of civilization itself.
The Syrian crisis still very much an international concern. Washington consulting with the UK and France on the situation, with French President Emmanuel Macron calling for a joint response to last weekend's deadly chemical weapons attack. Russia, meantime, says it will consider a strike on Syria a war crime.
You do not allow an attack on civilians, especially when you have U.S. troops in uniform still carrying out the fight against ISIS in this theater.
One country which would definitely not take part in a strike against Syria, Germany. Chancellor Angela Merkel says her country would not participate in military action, but supports the message that using chemical weapons is not acceptable. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
A surge of deadly violence in one of the most popular tourist destinations. In just 36 hours, officials in Cancun, Mexico reported a staggering 14 murders. The bloodbath was the result of 6 separate incidents. The violence is reported to be cartel-related, but each execution occurred in too close proximity to popular tourist hotspots. 9 people were killed on Wednesday, April 4th alone. Nearly 4 million Americans traveled to Cancun in 2017, according to the United States Department of Commerce. Well, crews in San Jose, California had to pull off a tricky rescue after a car plunges down a steep ravine. Choppers were overhead yesterday as rescue workers gurneyed the driver out of the embankment. No word on that driver's condition. Check this out. Reporters have to deal with some wild conditions during live shots. This Atlanta reporter is faced with a flurry of gunshots behind him right before he goes on air. You can hear those dozens of gunshots. Turns out it was a shootout between a suspect and an officer. Police say the suspect was shot and killed by police during the exchange of gunfire. A major bust in California, all over some foul play. Investigators serving a search warrant on a property in Lancaster, seizing more than 1,000 fowls believed to be used for illegal cockfighting. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department says the seizure was part of an animal cruelty investigation. These birds were specifically bred to fight to the death. Several people were detained, but no arrests have been made. A new study out shows a lot of us are guilty of drowsy driving, and we might not even realize it. A study published in the Journal of BMC Medicine shows people who suffer from chronic sleep apnea are more likely to crash, even though they may not think they're sleepy. For those with severe sleep apnea, the increased risk hit 123%. About 1/6 of American women and 1/3 of American men suffer from sleep apnea. A big announcement out of New Zealand today. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says the nation will no longer provide new permits for any activities involving offshore drilling and gas exploration. Ardern also pledged to completely wipe out greenhouse gas emissions in the country by 2050. Well, if you need evidence we are seriously polluting our oceans, scientists in Spain found 64 pounds of plastic and waste inside of a young dead sperm whale. The plastic ropes, nets in the stomach are believed to have caused the death. Authorities plan to launch a beach cleanup campaign to avoid similar incidents. Scientists say the greatest threat to wildlife is plastic, as animals can get trapped or ingest too much of the product. Speaking of the planet, scientists warn more wild weather is heading our way as global temperatures continue to rise. The heating of the Earth's temperature is reportedly slowing the Atlantic Ocean currents. That decrease is pushing the Gulf Stream closer to the U.S. coast, meaning more extreme weather like hurricanes. Researchers say much of the northern hemisphere will be impacted. A warm-up globally, but a cool down regionally. Over to you, Henry.
Yeah, most definitely. Winter weather already impacting much of the region, a little bit of a band extending along the interstate.
A tragic accident is shaking the hockey community this week. A team out of Saskatchewan's bus collided with a semi-truck, killing 16 on board. To pay tribute, schools across the country wore jerseys to school today. Reporter Molly Hurley shows us the outpouring of love in Minot.
Outside of Jim Hill Middle School stand 16 hockey sticks to remember the fallen members of the Humboldt Broncos. Inside, students and administrators wore jerseys.
Our love for hockey is so strong, and then it just breaks my heart thinking of the families, the siblings, and the teammates that survived that have to make sense of this tragedy.
Students like Hansen say they are reminded not to take life for granted.
Those boys were like made for something big. and like they're going places.
Students at Sunnyside Elementary joined in as well, even if they could not understand the meaning behind the jerseys. The Minot Hockey Boosters helped each student have a jersey to wear.
You know, when times get tough for everybody, it gives everybody something to look up to.
School administrators and family members of the students also joined in on the message.
You see it from top to bottom. You see grandparents wearing them, teachers, children, and it brings what's more important, that, you know, everybody is together in a family, even though there might not be related.
Remembering 16 lives lost far too soon. In Minot for West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Molly Hurley.
Monkey see, monkey do. A gorilla at Busch Gardens in Tampa is going viral after copying the movements of his trainer. They say these exercises, quote, build trusting and positive relationships with the animals. All right, now over to Henry. Henry, winter is not letting go of its grip on us.
No, it seemed like it never does.